You also spoke about natural fiction and difference between spotlight and laser brains. How
Mm,
does this science influence the design of Pivot?
yeah, so the neural friction that we're looking at is again it's cutting that habit when it starts. So basically, a laser brain is effectively locked into a screen. If you think about tunnel vision, it's kind of what that is. You're ignoring the outside world, while the spotlight brain is a little more. It's larger. It's more malleable. You can actually kind of move it to where and if you need it. So we've designed Pivot to break that laser lock.
Welcome to the Strong Legacy Podcast, a place where real stories shape real strength. Today's guest is Tanja Catalinac, a CEO of Pivot and a police officer with 18 years of frontline experience. Tanya's career spans critical areas, including child abuse investigations and crisis negotiation, environments that demands constant vigilance and resilience. Through this journey, she recognized a hidden challenge that unwinding through constant phone use was not rest, but a digital trap impacting well being. In this episode, she shares the biological cost of constant scrolling, the impact of hypervigilance, and how a simple behavioral reset becomes the catalyst for change. The turning point led to her mission through Pivot, helping people step away from digital overload and reconnect with real life. Before we begin, a brief disclaimer. The views and experience shared in this podcast are for general information and inspiration only. Nothing discussed should be taken as professional, medical, or legal advice. Please seek qualified guidance for matters relating to health, well-being, or personal circumstances. The story shared belongs to each guest and may not reflect the views of the host or any organization. Listener discretion is advised as some episodes may cover trauma, loss, or challenging events. Thank you for being here. This is Strong Legacy Podcast, where strength is lived, learned, and passed on. Let's begin.
You had an 18-year policing career before stepping into tech wellness space. For listeners meeting you for the first time, how would you describe who you are today and the mission you are on?
Yeah, well, I'll just say thank you for having me on. It's genuinely an honour, and given what you do as well is no small feat. So thank you for vouching for us as well. Yeah, look, about me, I'm not operational anymore. I'm still kind of connected to the job, but following 18 years in policing, mostly working in Canberra, I worked GDs for a while, and then I transitioned into the criminal investigations part, which is the sexual assault, child abuse team staff, your major crime, then you got your fraud and stuff like that. I also worked in human trafficking down in Victoria for a little bit. And throughout that time, I was fortunate enough to be a crisis negotiator, part-time for 7 years. And just before I took some leave, I was their interim team leader. So it's, look, the job, rightly or wrongly, I think I would do it all over again. I think it was the best career I've ever done, and it's taught me so much. So I also firmly believe that mental health preservation is incredibly important, and that policing does have an expiration date, which I've now learned. So to be clear, helping people is why I joined the job, and that hasn't changed. I just have simply shifted my focus to a different crisis, and that's the digital age and current digital burnout that is ever present. So the new mission, I guess, is to build a tool that actually helps people turn away from their devices and come back to their real lives. And I just need to be clear on this part. I am not about anti-tech. I obviously we can't be anti-tech. This addiction to screens is probably the worst addiction to have entirely, because it is literally what we rely on as people, as a human race. So we're just trying to build a way for people to be better with their boundaries and choosing a healthier relationship with technology, basically.
Oh, that's such an awesome thing you're doing there. That leads me into the next question. What part of your story do you feel people need to understand first to appreciate the working you are doing now?
Yeah, I think, I suppose it's going to resonate with everyone. I call it a moment of friction. You know what it's like. You do a 10 or 12-hour or longer shift, you come home, you grab some food, and you unwind properly. And by properly, I meant without tech, and that was about 10 or 15 years ago. So it was this particular day, not 10 years ago. I got home, it was December 2024, and I was exhausted. I had done some traveling internationally for like personal reasons, and then I did some for the job. So this particular day, I remember getting home exhausted. I had just kind of plonked onto the lounge, and I just put on my favorite television show at the time. I had my phone in my hand and just opened a game and just started playing a game while I was watching TV. And I still can't tell you to date what caused me to look up. But I looked up and it was this realization of, crap, what am I doing? And before I could let my brain go any further into that, because that would have kind of delved into this self-perpetuating bad talk, I just got up. I got up and just marched myself to the kitchen, put my phone down on the kitchen bench and made a coffee, and just kind of sat in that. So then I spoke with my sister and was it the next day and just said to her, like, can you believe what I did? And she's like, oh, I kind of do that too. And my sister's also my co-founder. I call her my co-e. And because she's lived this as well, she was the best person to bring aboard. And then I spoke to some friends of mine, and they told me that not only did they do the same thing, but they were falling asleep with their phones in their hands. And I'm like, right, if that's what's happening to me and my immediate circle, what's happening kind of a little wider than that? So it was that moment of going back to that kettle when I forced myself real quick to jump out, go put the kettle on. It was a digital circuit breaker, but a manual circuit breaker. And I realized that we needed a digital version of that kettle moment.
Wow, that is amazing. Like, like so many of us do that. And we don't even realize it. Like, that's amazing. Like, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We'll dive into the next set of things that we want to discuss: the policing years, hypervigilance, trauma, and identity.
Yeah.
You spoke about living in a state of constant hypervigilance, even off shift. What did that actually feel like day to day, and when did you realize it was taking a toll on you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many people in this exact same place. Policing, first responders go to these jobs and they're expected just to wipe it off and continue with their lives. And as we mentioned earlier, offline, there's not a whole lot of preparation for us to actually be able to deal with what we see and deal with the trauma of what we see. So, but for me personally, the living in constant hypervigilance wasn't specifically, again, it wasn't an aha moment of I knew something was wrong. I feel it was a subtle creep, if that makes sense. Like you go to jobs day in, day out, right? And your inner safety might get rattled at a couple of jobs. And then your amygdala starts to fire up. And then it takes you a little bit longer for you to wind down after a job. And then the adrenaline seems to linger on a little longer. And then when you get home, you're playing things in your mind. So that's kind of where I can start to see over the years that was creeping in slowly. And then, you realize in your off duty, and tell me you haven't done this, your off duty moments, you're sitting at a pub or a restaurant and a bar. Where are you sitting? Your back's against the wall. Right, so you're making sure that you can see potential threats coming in at you, not to surprise you. You make mental notes of all of the exits and the escape routes around you. Already having planned, against some kind of attack, like you're mentally rehearsing something that's never going to happen or has such a tiny chance of happening. And then you're even intently looking for something to happen in front of you just so you can respond to it. So almost to justify that hypervigilance as to why we're there. So then your non-policing friends, they slowly drop off and you're kind of left wondering what's going on, noticing and being told that you're just not as fun or as relaxed as you were before. And that was all me. Like that's kind of how I felt. And, my sister is, yes, my co-founder and my best friend, and I've got such a close knit of people around me and I am so blessed for that. they were never ever scared to tell me that I changed. And I think that's really important, because that's kind of where you start to see, hang on, if they've said that I've changed, have I changed? And if I've changed, how have I changed? Now, you can't go into policing thinking that you're going to be okay just because you are you. You have to go into policing thinking, I have to harden up. I have to have self-preservation. So I have to employ certain things to make sure that I am tough. I'm not rattled, at least facing the dangers that we face. So yeah, for me again, it was just that moment of, maybe I should try and sit with my back facing the entry and the exit and see how I go with that. So it was a moment when I had a conversation with a friend who asked me, why are you always choosing that side of the table? And I'm like, okay, all right, maybe I'll try a different one. And I got really uncomfortable, and I practiced it. And today, funnily enough, touch wood, nothing's happened. So it just kept on reaffirming my safety, that I was safe to sit in any place, in a restaurant or pub or wherever, with my back to the exit. So it's the toll part of it is knowing when that happens, realizing that as much as we go the jobs, as much as a tough front that we put on, we're human at the end of the day. We feel the same things as every other person feels in the world. So that it was a self-awareness thing that brought my attention to them.
Oh, that's really wow. Sometimes we forget.
It's easy
It's
to.
yeah, and yeah, sometimes things like that is just such a weird things to experience, but it's such a normal thing for people in the industry. So no, thank you for sharing that, because this is very, very, very important. You mentioned that unwinding became a dangerous paradox. Can you unpack that moment where rest and disassociation became a blurred thing?
I blurred. I don't think it was even existent there. I think it was. It wasn't existent. I learned, but basically this is where I put all the points together, and I started realizing that I was using my vices to help me deal with unprocessed trauma, and one of which was keeping, either on my phone or was, keeping myself busy. And each time I would get onto my phone, I was watching TV, I'd start going down rabbit holes, or just trying to fill the voids, or the empty dopamine hit I would get from playing a game and leveling up in a game, or the endless checking of apps. One really big thing for me was I deleted all of my social media apps, and I instead replaced it with the news. So instead of doing something that was healthy, I was going further down into a negative spiral. So looking at what we do day to day as police, it's not positive. We don't do positive things. We don't attend positive situations, generally speaking. So I was going from negative into negative continuously. And it was just another thing I became more addicted to. So that was, I started to live, I guess there was, like I said, no blurred lines after that. It was just living from negative to negative space, and there was just no escape.
Yeah, no, that's very, very serious stuff. Like, some people that obviously not in the job probably, won't understand that, but people in the job definitely, because it's it becomes a normal. I know it sounds silly, but it just kind of becomes some normal that you forget what normal is sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, and how did policing shape your nervous system, your habits, and your sense of self?
I think it destroyed it after a while. I do want to point something really important out though. I know that we're the first responders, and it's us that go to the jobs, and it's us that deal with all of the awful things, but it also doesn't just impact us as first responders. It hits the nervous systems of our family and our friends. So, the way that we react or respond when we're offline or off duty can impact the way that we respond to them and impact their lives. So I think a shout out needs to happen for all of our family and all of our friends who constantly support us through what is an incredibly rewarding but very challenging career. So the job part in relation to the nervous system, we're wired to stay in the red zone. So the red's your hypervigilance. You're continually up here. You don't really know how to bring that right back down. You're trying to, scan for threats when you're off duty, when you're on duty. And for me, the introduction of laptops and work mobile phones was probably the worst thing that they could have done. It kept me tethered to the phone or to the job 24/7. I was checking my emails at all times of the day and night, and even when I was on leave, just to make sure that nothing urgent was in my inbox. So I think I quickly went into being Tanja Catalinac, a person, a human being, to rank Catalinac. I completely identified as a police officer, every part of me, and I was not human. I was not a sister or a daughter or an auntie or a fur mum or a best friend or a girlfriend. I was police officer. And that took, I think, I noticed that I was really identifying in that space probably till about 2021 COVID time. So in this particular part, I feel like I lost myself as a sense of self in the importance and in the intoxication of the adrenaline dumps the job gave me. So it's kind of hard to come out of that.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
scene as
totally
well.
understand.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, it's a very, very difficult sometimes to put things together. The whole process you have to go through to deal with stuff too, because at the end of the day, you go into jobs that are like I got addicted. Probably don't want to say, but I think it was addiction. I wanted to go to all these very, very dangerous places because everywhere people didn't want to go to work on those places. I wanted to go and work on those places to test myself, test the programs that I wanted to develop and do it. And it kind of became so like a challenge, and I reckon is addiction and chasing that adrenaline, yeah, and it's hard to sit down and explain to people who are not in the job to go, hey, I want to go there. I want that challenge. I want that challenge to go and sort things out because it hasn't been done there. I want to go and do it. And people outside the circle will be going, eh, really? What?
Yeah.
What?
Is it your business? Why are you going there? Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man. So
Yes.
it's like, I always wanted to climb, do the base camp in
Yeah.
order to do a couple of
Wow.
things and in order to do it. And when I did it, I was finished the base camp and I was coming down. I went to some of the monks to, give some offerings and stuff. And the monk asked me, oh, where did you come from? And I showed him the photo, like, oh, I've just been to the base camp, yeah, And he's like, why challenge the mountain? I'm like, why did you do it? I'm like, I wanted to do it. Is it ego? You're challenging the mountain for ego. Anyway, it became philosophical
Wow.
dilemma for me, coming back down the hill and coming back to Australia thinking, why did I do it? And I remember why I did it because of when I was young, because my family are from Nepal and there's all these stories about Nepal and the history, the heroics and Gurkhas and all that. And I wanted to go there. And that's when I wrote a book about why I went there.
Amazing.
Just to get that put down there. It was only a small podcasty kind of thing for 20 minutes thing, but I just wanted to put it down there. Like, this is why I did it. It was no ego.
Yeah, that's
But
amazing.
anyway, it's just weird thing. But anyway, sometimes you gotta be in the circle to understand. But what are you describing there is so amazing stuff because it is so real. It is so real, and we sometimes when you're in it, you don't realize it. That's the problem,
Yeah.
You have to step out of it. That's when you go like, whoa, what did I do?
Yeah.
And
Which I
then
think I think that's kind of the problem with the way that the colleges are set up for policing, at least. We aren't told or taught how to actually confront these situations. And it's not on a egotistical level, it's on an emotional level. Going to suicides, you're going to really traumatic, scenes on the road. It's not about being too tough to cry or too tough to show emotion. It's about you're storing that somewhere in your body. And if you're not processing it, it's going to show up for you later. And what we weren't taught was how to actually process that trauma. It's fine that we come across trauma. That's why we know that we got into the job for that. What we didn't get into the job was to get injured repeatedly, and it not being fixed. So, people don't sign up to be hurt. They sign up to help people. And that's the bottom line here for me, I think.
Yeah. And then look, this kind of conversation is so great because this is where then hoping officers coming out of the academy or stuff can see this, and then they, it's like this. We got to look after our body.
Yeah.
We got to look at our body as a professional athlete. So that means when we want to be the best police officer we want to be in the world, we must make sure we have got a physio. We make sure we've got the best dietitian. We've got to have the best psychologist. We're going to have all these different people around us to support us, because we're going to look at ourselves as a professional athlete. That's what we are. We're driving in the car and we're seeing a grub running, right? And we haven't warmed. Like if I go and ask a sprinter and go like, mate, do a 100-meter sprint, they're like, hang on a second, I've got to do my stretching. I haven't had my shake yet. Give me 45 minutes. I'm going to be ready. So they have to do stretching. They have to do this. They have to do the warm up, and then they do 100-meter. So we go to situations so extreme all the time. So we got to make sure we look after our body. But that's something it's not explained enough in the academy. I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing I want to also project out is that see ourselves as elite athletes. No elite athletes goes without having all those people around them.
100%.
So to be able to perform at the 120%, that's what needs to happen. And like psychology, such a great important part of policing officers. Going to, like, I still remember all the dead bodies I've gone to in the accidents and stuff, the feel and the touch of the body and all these stuff. And you can't get rid of it. It'll never go away.
No.
But doing the right thing at the right times helps you mask it and manage it better. And, hindsight is a great thing. But
it sure is.
But these conversations I'm hoping we're having, it will make an effect on people joining. A job is great. Like I will never do any other job, than policing, if I get another chance. It's such a great job. Policing is such a great job. We get to help people.
Yeah.
We just got to keep politics out of it. It's such a great job. We do our job. We look after people. We make mistakes. That's fine. We got to learn from our mistakes. But at the same time, we got to look after ourselves. And
first and foremost.
And we can't go and help other people if we are not at our optimal level.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's so important. That leads me to the next questions. You described a quiet moment playing a game on the phone while watching TV. As the moment, everything changed. Why was the moment so significant for you?
It's funny because it wasn't at the time. It was just a moment in time where I realized that this was not entirely healthy. But what I do remember is that I was exhausted. I could actually feel the stress in my eyes, and I could feel that my neck and shoulders were painful, and it was just because of my hunched over posture. And I think looking around, I've got a Kelpie and I've got another dog, but the Kelpie, he's very, whether it's intuitive, whether it's needy, I'm not sure which, but he has always hated my devices. I can't tell you how many times he's swiped them out of my hands. And if I'm, on my computer at the actual desk, he'll sit there, he'll nudge my hand up and down to basically stop being in front of the computer. Even if I play for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, he'll lose interest and he'll go to sleep so long as I stay away from my devices. And that particular night when I was making coffee, I could just see him and he was just looking at me. And I was just like, yeah, okay, there's a problem. So it wasn't a significant moment. It wasn't a huge moment in time. I think it then built from there. I think after that, I became more aware of what I was doing. I was looking at when I'm on the phone, what's my dog's do? Because they've got amazing perception of people, of energies. So I was looking at what he was doing, and he just sits there and stares at me. So I put my phone down and he goes to sleep. So I just look, basically I'm much more aware of what I do, my actions. And so when I do start feeling like I'm going into an app, and I still do it now. I'm human. I'm learning this process as we go. So this is not me saying, oh, I'm cured. This is me saying, I can't wait for Pivot to come out because I'm going to be using it first. It's trying to be more self-aware, and I think that's the significant moment. You being aware of your actions day to day and how you actually respond to those actions.
Oh, that's so lovely there. And many people will recognize that split focus behavior.
Mm.
What was happening neurologically and emotionally for you in that moment?
I'll preface this part, which I probably should have done at the beginning. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any kind of clinician, and neither is Pivot. It's just a behavioural tool. We've got researchers. I've got a world-renowned researcher who's helping us design this, and I've got a neuroscientist who's also pitching it as well. So I do have that backing in Pivot, but in terms of my advice or my terminology, I will use very, very rudimentary terms, so I'm not coming across as that expert, I guess. Look, neurologically, I was stuck in the dopamine loop. My brain was genuinely seeking a next hit, whether it be images or information or gaming, leveling up, or it was just trying to keep me engaged in whatever I was doing on my device. And I think unbeknown to me this was also actually raising my cortisol levels and keeping me in that state of hyper-vigilance. So I didn't know this was happening until, again, all of this research. And when I was going to bed, I didn't realize I wasn't resting. I was still in alert mode. And that then started to hinder my ability to actually get a restful, what they call a restorative sleep. And I felt groggy and hungover almost every morning. So, and the reason behind the grogginess in the morning was that each night when you go to sleep, your body has to hit a certain point in its sleep that becomes really, really critical for our functioning the next day and going forward. We build up metabolic waste throughout each day, and it must be cleared out by the lymphatic system, basically. So it's just getting all the toxins that have built up over the day, and it cleans that out every night. So if we postpone that, if we interrupt that cycle, which most of us are doing in that late night scroll, the buildup of plaque from one of the toxins has been closely linked to the development of Alzheimer's. So you're potentially causing yourself some serious health issues down the track. So the wash cycle, I guess, is it just works by shrinking the brain cells to allow the cerebral spinal fluid to rush and wash the brain. And when we do get that, and you'll be able to see the difference if you spend one night on your phone and you stay up late doing this, and then another night where you have an hour's shut down before, at least an hour shut down before you go to bed. See what your sleep's like, because you're likely going to be waking up a little more restful here, and you're likely going to be feeling a little bit more hungover here. So it's an actual difference you'll feel.
Wow, that's amazing advice there, and great research too, and it's lived experience too. So what are you sharing? So you don't have to be a doctor or anything like that. You're just talking about a lived experience, and then dive into the research. So that's that's very, very amazing stuff. So with that, I will obviously we've been talking about Pivot in and out a little bit, but let's go into it. You said that choosing to stand up and make a cup of coffee was an act of rebellion against your own autopilot. What did the first steps teach you about presence?
I think the biggest thing I've been seeking recently is peace. And that first step, when I sat there, and I've got a stove kettle, so I didn't have enough room for my actual kettle, so I bought a stove kettle, and it takes about 6 minutes to boil. And so that first step stopped. It just basically stopped me, stopped my brain, and I just kind of felt this stillness. And I don't think that I had felt that in a long time, given that the fast pace that we work in the police. And look, don't get me wrong, also people who do suffer from, PTSD, anxiety, depression, or even high achievers who do a lot of stuff, or are simply overwhelmed, sitting in silence for a long time can actually be, I'll say, dangerous. But for me in this moment, I was just sitting there and I was able to take everything in using all of my senses. And it's, again, something I think we forget really easily to do. Like, we forget that we've got a sense of, sight, smell, all of it. And so when we actually apply it to one simple task, it actually slows everything so far down that when you kind of come out of it, I felt it was only 5 or 6 minutes. I felt just calm and that peace. And it gave me the space I needed to realize that my ways weren't healthy. And I needed to pivot, and that's kind of how the word came up, pivot.
Nice.
Look, I think being able to focus everything in and then start to realize that I did the behavior interrupter that we've now added into pivot. That was that moment of friction that I needed to hop out of that cycle.
What a great way to develop things, eh? Make a coffee.
Make a coffee. Absolutely.
Well, no, that's really interesting. And what he's talking about smell, it's so good. Like, there's a saying called smell, get out and smell the roses or something.
Yeah, smell the roses, definitely.
Yeah, and just get the mindfulness. So I look at that thing as a great mindfulness exercise. Like, I thought mindfulness was all just meditating, and then I spoke to the psychologist who was doing a PhD in actually stress in policing and stuff. And I was having a chat with her, and she told me about, mindfulness is anything in me, just whatever it is, just do it. Even going and doing something different what you're doing. So even you're working, have a break and have a hobby, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So no, thank you for pointing that out.
Look, mindfulness can just be like my thing at the moment is pen to paper. It slows everything down. So again, instead of typing in notes, write down pen paper what you're trying to achieve. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, because like sometimes we just overthink it, like, oh, we got to do something bigger, but making a coffee.
Making coffee, start there. Just start small.
Gives you a couple of minutes off from what you're thinking.
100%.
What were the early challenges in breaking the digital numbering cycle, and what helped you stay committed?
I don't know about you, maybe your listeners also face this as well, but it was a challenge of uncomfortable silence to start with. When you stop that, like the numbing out in the screen and all the stress and the hypervigilance and noise that you were in kind of tries to rush back in. So in the beginning, it was kind of almost painful to sit through, sitting with my own thoughts without a digital pacifier to try and distract me away from what was going on. And, while my brain is screaming at me, please pick up your phone, having to resist that was willpower, but it wasn't enough. And I think that's a massive thing that we'll probably discuss a little later, but willpower is not the issue here. So what I had to do was I replaced my pacifier with a purpose. And that was where I started to see that if I did bit by bit, like we just said, the cup of coffee, that would actually start making things easier. So that built. And then what kept me committed was the data, the continuous research that I was doing, the continuous research my team were doing, and seeing that digital dissociation wasn't just a bad habit, but it was a thief of my time and life, and my life, and it was changing everything. That's what's keeping me focused and mission-led on this, because it's not just me I'm dealing with; it's people around me, and I want to help people around me as well.
Yeah, well, that's a typical cop attitude, isn't it? Want to help people. Well, we'll go into the next thing, finding a pivot. So obviously, the pivot was making that coffee. That's when you realized that. Pivot was born from your own lived experience.
Yeah.
What gap do you see in the digital wellness space that pushed you to build something new?
Yeah, so look, there's a few different apps out there that people swear by, and Power Tool, and that's really good. But plenty of apps track the time spent or send you alerts for overuse. That's a past thing. You can't change that in the moment. You can't change it in the future. It kind of gives people almost like you failed today because you've spent 5 hours instead of 4.5 hours. So it's just it's a passive way of tracking your time, and it puts pressure on you. It creates more stress and anxiety around going to your phone. So that just doesn't help the problem. It perpetuates it. Something easy to override, and I've been on Reddit a lot recently just because there's a lot of people. It's a very big platform for people who are seeking digital solutions for this addiction, seeking solutions for their digital addiction. And a lot of people were saying that it was so simple to override, or just easy to uninstall. And people are interesting. Some need to be told what to do, but others don't want to be told what to do. So it's a bit of a fine balance. Unfortunately, there's wellness apps. They're also kind of designed for you to stay on their app for longer. And again, Pivot's different here. We actually do the opposite. We are getting you off of your phone. So the apps that suddenly stop the user from their device also leave users on the edge, like, what do I do now? Or worse, like I mentioned earlier, you can create a bit of a dangerous void. So while many apps allowing the tracking and blocking features, our research has shown that issues go far well beyond the lack of willpower. We need to accept that we have been controlled by screens purely because they were designed that way. But now that we know, it is our responsibility to make the change if we want it. So you can't change someone from an addiction if they don't want to change. So we're filling the gap with that we identified to pivot the user away from scrolling through behaviour science. So similar science to what the persuasive design is, but we're doing the opposite. So we're trying to actually give people the reason to get off, like we're being the exit ramp for them, and to help them understand that we're giving them the why they're addicted, why they're behaving certain ways, for them to better understand their behaviour and put in certain measures for them to get better.
Oh, wow. That's really great research and trying to check the market, what's available. And you guys, done a lot of research. So hopefully, fingers crossed to people to try it, because end of the day, it is an issue. And I know there's legislation come out for kids not to use social media and stuff like that. But, it is an addiction. It'll cause dramas. So parents listening in, check Pivot out. It might just save you getting more grey hairs. Grey hairs, yeah. Okay, with you talk about behavioral circuit breakers. What are they, and why are they essential for people trying to break screen addiction?
So the tool that we've got is a behaviour interrupting feature. It creates a choice point for the user. So it's got a friction built into it to stop the trance and provide the user with some time to decide whether or not they want to return to scrolling or engage in a completely different activity. So stopping the immediate trance gives the user the time to reclaim their agency, but versus just being continuously pulled back into that trance. We want people to step back into the real world. So we've designed the app so when a person goes down that route, they get pivoted out. We've got a way of frictioning them out of that and giving them a moment of time. And in that time, they'll have a decision to make as to whether or not they want to go back into the app that was sucking the world out of them, or if they want to actually get out of it and do something that's a bit more real world.
Wow, that is that's pretty good. So, you guys not only just got an app, it'll be a thing where how to break that. Just supporting people understanding how to break the habits. So no, that's really good. Going into the research. digital dementia, natural friction, and tech burnout.
Mhm.
You highlighted research around digital dementia and the neurological cost of constant stimulation.
Yeah.
What findings shocked you the most?
Yeah. Digital dementia seems to be a thing. And both you and I might even have it. It's kind of confronting, and the scientists are also quite concerned about seeing the MRI scans of brains and seeing the thinning of the grey matter around the prefrontal cortex. That's the kind of part where the impulse control and emotional regulation sits. And the reason why that's kind of happening is because we've outsourced all of our cognitive functions to our devices. So, for instance, again, typing versus writing, there's different things happening in the brain when you type versus when you write down, adding reminders versus remembering. So you're actually focusing on something to remember for you, and then now your memory is atrophying because it's not actually being able to do its purpose. Our GPS reliance, so we're relying on everything to get everywhere. I mean, obviously policing is different. We need to get places quickly, but we're also just relying on that again for that memory part. Google effect. Everything is Google or now AI searchable. And noticeably, emotional regulation. We're using wearables to track our steps, our heart rates, our mood trackers, instead of being able just to check in with ourselves. Then you've got the others part of it, which is the rise of AI, and we're cutting down the processes of thinking and research for a quick answer, which is delivered in a beautifully perfect sentence. The problem is our cognitive abilities are rooted in repetition. Once we stop using part of our brain, like our muscles, it begins to atrophy. So,
Yes.
this is kind of why pivot is necessary. We're trying to reintroduce neural friction to exercise our brains so we can actually, I'm not sure whether we can come out of it. I don't know whether they've actually said whether the matter grows back. I'm not sure whether that's a thing, but it's certainly under a huge microscope at the moment trying to figure out the next move.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting topic there, like obviously the world going towards basically all tech stuff, but we also got to understand that we can't lose the aspect of being a human being, our
Yeah.
brain.
Mm.
We still need to be able to think from ourselves instead of from a tablet. So what pivot is not about, anti technology. It's about how we can better use the technology and make sense. Like if it's science is saying that they, can cause us dementia, like I don't want to be 70 years old and go and don't know who I am, it's not living. I
Absolutely.
remember. So no, that's something very, very important you raised there. So it's not, you guys are not anti-technology. You guys are for technology, but obviously we've got to have parameters around how we use it and
Yes.
utilize it and have that breakaways. So no,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that insight over there.
Thanks.
You also spoke about natural friction and difference between spotlight and laser brains. How
Mm.
does this science influence the design of pivot?
Yeah. So the neural friction that we're looking at is, again, it's cutting that habit when it starts. So basically, a laser brain is effectively locked into a screen. If you think about tunnel vision, it's kind of what that is. You're ignoring the outside world, while the spotlight brain is a little more, it's larger, it's more malleable. You can actually kind of move it to where and if you need it. So we've designed Pivot to break that laser lock. We add the neural friction so that you can make the choice and be a spotlight brain and scroll away from, and get away from the scrolling and start choosing a more meaningful activity. So we've actively used the behaviour interrupting features that act as that circuit breaker, forcing the brain to pause and switch from passive digital loop into an active real world state.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And it's such an important thing. Like, so we don't think of all these things, like things get given, we just go, oh, right, yeah. The next thing this becomes our life. And
Yeah.
another thing I just wanted to point out, I think you discussed it earlier on about sleep. Such an important part
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
and you got to have that nice REM sleep, 8 hours. to be able to be the best version of ourselves, we need the sleep. So having Pivot app like that will be so great to have a healthy affection with the technology where we are not compromising our sleep. As you know, in policing, shift work and stuff like that. I had a good opportunity to talk with a lot of dietitians and psychologists and sports science in the QPS, because I do a podcast in the service too, but it's for QPS only. At the moment, I haven't put it out there. So I had because we've got a well-being unit in the service. We've got free access to dietitians and sports science and psychologists and stuff like that. And so
Amazing.
you should get them on to talk about all this stuff, to what is REM sleep and all that. And so sleep hygiene is a big thing these days. So if you're doing shift work, you make sure your room is all blacked out, cold. 18 degrees was the optimal, I think they talked about. Having mouth tapes or eye mask or whatever, noise cancellation, no white noise inside the thing, put your phones outside and have a good sleep. It changed a thing for me, like the sleep part of things, because I was training all the time. I used to eat right. I thought, sleep's for weak. And, that's me. That's kind of person I was, like go. And found the hard way, so you can't be a better version for yourself. You can go around for a while, but it comes to a point where, you're not a machine.
No.
So what your part, what you're talking about, that the sleep part is really resonates with me, and I'm pretty sure it resonates with a lot of other people out there, especially in the emergency services departments. So that leads me to the next thing: the human impact of PTSD, sleep, loneliness, and connection. You have said that the people with PTSD and the cost of screen addiction is the variability to heal. What do you want first responders and veterans to understand about this?
I think people with PTS generally, and I'm generally speaking here, so not everyone does it, but a lot of people do. They'll numb out. So mistakenly thinking the screen is that safe place to retreat to. Scrolling spikes your cortisol right when it needs to be dropping before you go to bed. So it's keeping your nervous system in that red zone all night. So it's, again, we're moving away from that restorative sleep, like I mentioned beforehand, and your brain's not able to flush out those toxins each night. So by staying on the screen, you're blocking that the wash away of data toxins, and waking up feeling that mentally hungover, which I'm not sure whether you've had, but I've had a lot of. But the issue
I get it when I'm drunk. Oh, kidding.
Yeah, I get it sometimes when I don't sleep well, but it's more about when you do eventually wake up, the first act people do is generally picking up their phones, and that creates a different cycle that continues to destroy your mood and your ability to do the job throughout the day if you have not had a good restful sleep. So there's a lot within sleep that we need for our brains to do what it does, but it's also for the rest of our body to actually rest from the day. Being in a high stress job, we need to actually relax. We need to be able to calm down from that hyper-vigilance. So the takeaway I'd like people to get from that one would be challenge yourself. 1 hour before you go to bed, put your phone into charge in a different room. Have it on loud if you need to, but have it in a different room. And then when you get up in the morning, don't look at it for 1 hour. It's not easy, but it's going to start to show that it's going to show that your body that you're starting to calm down. You're not having that blue light in your face at night. Even if you're graying your phone out, you're still having that light in your face. You're still having that cortisol uptick from what you're reading and what you're engaging in. So try having that 1 hour before and after bedtime and see how you feel.
Oh, that's a really good advice. And yeah, you're so right. Like, 4 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, first thing you do is your phone, you check the news. There you go.
Yep.
Already started with a negative.
You know me well.
Yeah. And you haven't even left the bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, such a great advice there. How has your own healing journey shaped the way you design solution for others?
Mm. Um, what I'm fast learning is that your willpower you can't willpower, I guess, your way out of a physiological loop, especially when your nervous system is in that fight or flight mode. I feel like I was being held hostage by my own device, in the sense that it was what I gravitated to at every point during either the day or night. So I'll liken it to a person who has got a cigarette addiction. So they'll use it when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're indifferent. Um, So there are plenty of proven ways to kick addictions, of course, but the very first step is that you need to want to kick it, and that's really important for people to recognise. Pivot is going to help a lot of people. I genuinely believe it. It's designed not to leave you hanging after it knocks you out of an app. It's going to divert your attention to a different meaningful activity. But it doesn't mean that that replaces clinicians or doctors. This is a behaviour tool. I'm not a psychologist, and people need to make that distinction. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is only strength in asking for help.
Yeah, no, that's such a great advice there. Because, see, end of the day, you know, to know there's a problem, you need to recognize there's a problem. And if
Definitely.
you don't know there's a problem, you are not gonna know. So it's about understanding, like, conversation like this, what are you saying? It will resonate with people knowing, like, hey, man, I do that. I sit and watch TV and start scrolling at the same time watching TV. What's that says? Oh, okay, cool. Well, there might be something, So, and look, end of the day, there could be different things out there, but I believe in things lived experience. If somebody has gone through things and they've come up with an idea because their heart and psyche is the right place to get things so that it helps others. So with Pivot, I
Yes.
think what you're saying is it resonates with me, and I'm pretty sure it will resonate with a lot of other people. And
Yeah, I hope
sometimes
so.
it's good. And what you're saying is right. You're not a psychologist or anything like that. It's not about that. This is about you breaking a habit. So you go to a psychologist and get diagnosed or whatever, go to the GP and all that, having sleep, all this. But this is a tool that can help you achieve your wellness. It's a tool. So, it sort of challenges your habit and gets your habit in the right place. So,
Sure.
I think that's a really, really important point there. So, like,
Thanks. It's a good
why not?
summary.
Yeah, why not use it?
Yeah.
Use it
Yeah,
because
great.
it will help you. Well, that leads me
Yeah.
to the next thing. What role does world connection play in restoring well-being?
Yeah. It's a really important one. Screens. It's weird because you'll know the difference, right? So you and I talking online. If you and I were
Yeah,
talking in person, our interactions would be wildly different because we can gauge how we're sitting, how we're talking, our posture, our body language. It just changes it a little bit. So screens only provide that simulated connection, and
yeah,
that actually increases loneliness. You're in a room, for instance, you're on your computer, and even if you're gaming, but you're still by yourself, you're still physically by yourself. And that actually keeps it in a high state of alert, and it also keeps you vulnerable. So um, when I was organising a course for NEGS last year, we actually got some professors to come in from one of the universities around Canberra, and they spoke at the loneliness epidemic and what that's doing to people and how they're becoming vulnerable to predators of all descriptions, and being radicalized for different reasons. And it's because these people just need a sense of belonging. And since I think all of the technology and the social platforms have come out, it's actually really done a great job at isolating people. People are doing their social comparisons. People are looking at how many likes they've got and are being validated by it. And that is not real life. Like, I know people who have got same life as me. It's an average life. They have their ups and downs, but they'll show the glamour part of their life because that's what they want the world to see. Someone else seeing that will go, why can't I have that? And so they end up in this mental spiral about I'm not good enough, and they have these other issues about never being able to get ahead, and that just again spirals someone into a self-deprecating kind of way. So I think with the world riddled with this loneliness epidemic and a need to belong, the real world connection is the only thing genuinely that would regulate our nervous system and lower the cortisol enough to start finding your tribe. If you can find your crew, find your tribe or your team, whatever you want to actually call them, and interact face to face, this is actually going to bring about meaningful dopamine, which is the reward system, and your oxytocin, which is your bonding hormone, which is super important. And when that releases, that increases that sense of belonging and love, and that community feel that we feel in the cops. Like it's just that. I don't know. It's
Camaraderie.
That's the word I was looking for. Thanks. Yeah, camaraderie. That's something that, unfortunately, it's kind of slipped away because of the amount of jobs and stuff that have come up, and the not enough people. But we used to have 2 a.m. barbecues.
Yeah, or it still does happen.
Get all the zones to come and have a barbecue, and just catch up and say hello. Obviously, if it wasn't too busy. So, yeah.
No, it's such a good thing you put it out there, and human connection. Like I maybe in future, like when I get my sponsorship and everything sorted, I like to meet people in person and do podcasts. It's much nicer and more personal.
Sure.
This is good. It gets thing going, but
Mm.
what you're saying is so true. Like it's different. It's very different when you're actually sitting in front of someone.
Yeah.
And having that conversation, the presence, the feel, the emotion, and you get to embrace in terms of like what that person's doing, and actually say thank you in a way, and what they're doing. Like what you're doing with Pivot it's amazing stuff. Like, so it kind of takes that out of that the aura and the vibe kind of thing is sort of not there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that we're still able to do these things.
Absolutely.
With the thing. But yeah, just having that human connection is totally different to what it is. And you're right. After I think COVID, everybody's sort of just gone.
Yes. But I think you're right, and this is kind of where we need. This is the distinction I think that we need to learn when to lean in. You lean into technology at certain times, it's going to help you out enormously. And then you lean out when, it's time to live, be in real life. Like IRL is in real life. Like I had to make that because I needed the kids to understand.
Yeah, no, and you're right.
But
you're right.
it's not about like, my sister was in Cairns a couple of weeks ago, and we were worried about the cyclone. It thankfully didn't hit Cairns or even close to it, actually. But it was a moment of, this is where you lean into technology. This is where you have your phone next to you every step of the way, because you are going to get potentially life-saving information. It's just that you need to then learn when to get out, move back away, and remember that there is a physical world around you that you have to experience.
Yeah, and such an important point you're making there. It's about knowing, disconnecting, like a weekend. If you've got a weekend off, leave that thing aside. Enjoy things. Go to the park. Go for a hike. All this kind of stuff. There's so important things. So I think what he's saying is it's a very important thing, and I just don't want people to take it the wrong way that it's an anti-technology.
Not an anti-tech thing.
The sleep is so important. And having an app that can help you to correct your behavior, to have that sleep, it's mind changing. Like I said, it's one of those things. So the journey, the founder journey from pop to a CEO.
Yeah.
You have been honest about how hard it is to transition from policing into the startup world. What has surprised you the most about becoming a founder, basically?
Well, policing is very structured. It's we've got our SOPs. We know how to manage a crisis. In the startup business, to to start with, there isn't an SOP. You have to create one. I need to be comfortable that I'm building a plane whilst I'm flying it. And, you know, the policing drain in terms of trying to mitigate every risk, I don't have that. I have to learn to embrace the mess. And then when the mess happens, then I realize, okay, well, there's risk there. And it's interesting because, you know, we've trained to act immediately in the police, to step into chaos and take control. For me, what surprised me was that, you know, as a founder, I can't arrest a business problem. I'd love to sometimes.
Can't arrest yourself out of this problem.
I really I have to learn, and it's still learning. I'm not there yet. I'm still learning. So, the difference between a tactical urgency, right, and strategic patience. Patience is a big thing for me. So, you know, when I could have gone 20 hours a day, that grit would have saved me. Was building a human solution like Pivot requires a lot more empathy, a lot more vulnerability, and that's kind of the stuff that we usually use our uniform to hide. So yeah, there's definitely some challenges that I'm learning in that area, but I feel like it's worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely is. And look, what you're doing is helping people. It's going to help people. And at the same time, it's a continual learning. And that's what policing is all it is. Policing is when you're developing and going through the process in policing, it's continual learning anyway.
Yeah.
So what you're doing here is, again, continual learning. Nobody's perfect. Nobody said that I was born with it.
Yeah.
You're learning on the way and you're developing things. And kudos to you, you know. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to do that.
Back at
What
you.
strengths what strengths from policing have helped you in this new chapter, and what did you have to unlearn? That'll
Yeah,
be
so
an interesting one.
oh, well, there's a lot to unlearn, I think, but
Yeah.
look, I've actually drawn a lot quite heavily from my experience as a police officer, and a lot of it's been from dealing with the vulnerable people that we've dealt with, and also particularly those struggling with addiction. So as a negotiator, you learn that you can't force someone to change. You can't get them to do it through force. You need to be able to guide them or influence them to make a choice for themselves. We use that exact logic in our Pivot. So we ensure the user always has agency to make their own choices, because we've been robbed of that with this tech design. So we need to make sure that there are options for the moments when they're too mentally exhausted to think about their own exit ramp. So what I have had to adjust to is my own internal dictionary. I've gone from a world of SOPs and situational awareness to one of onboarding flows and UX frictions. And I said, yeah, the tech world needs, the tech world needs an actual translator, honestly. I've got a fantastic development team, and, you know, I literally say to them, I'm still learning. Can you please explain this? And they're amazing, and they do that. But I tell you what, beneath the jargon, the mission, it's identical. It's about understanding human behavior and providing the right support at the right time for people.
Oh, that's excellent, mate. That's very, very good. With the practical tools for listeners, for some listeners right now who feels overwhelmed by their phone use, what is one small immediate action they can take today?
Sure. One small action I would highly recommend is going into your settings and getting rid of what they call ghost notifications. What that basically is a notification that isn't coming from a human person. So it could be Netflix sending you an update. It's just the algorithm wanting your attention. So all that then does is you go, oh, look at that. You get distracted with a different app and you go into this spiral. So go into your settings, go into all of your notifications and turn off every notification that isn't going to be sent by a human being. And that's going to at least reclaim some of that time back.
Wow. Excellent advice. You often talk about analog magic. I know this is one of your new terminologies, maybe.
There is magic in it.
Yeah, well, it is. It's a magic. What are some simple analog habits that help people reset their nervous system?
I mean, there are so many out there, honestly. I think I've got a brochure here, which I'm going to send to you. So
Yep,
if you want to add it underneath the podcast for people to take.
yep.
One of them is, for instance, a sensory reset where you just step outside and you close your eyes and you listen for 3 things, and they are not allowed to be tech related or traffic related. So it's really
That'd be
forcing
hard
you
to
to
say.
focus on what you can hear outside of those 2 huge things. The other one, again, the analog connection, which is again my favorite currently, is that writing pen to paper. Look, I wrote some I wrote to my dad. He lives overseas at the moment, and it was liberating and hand cranking. It was really great to be able to get my thoughts out on paper. And what I realized was there was no distractions. I didn't have other ideas. I didn't have other intrusive, is that the word for it? Thoughts coming through or distractions or notifications coming through. It was just me, a pen and piece of paper, and me writing to my dad. And so when he got it, he said to me that was probably the most heartfelt thing he's received in years. And so I'm like, interesting. So then I said, well, hurry up and write me back so I can get the same feeling. And then suddenly that it's that anticipation. It's not that immediate response that we all get from the internet. It's not that
Email. Yep.
the satisfaction that we get. It's that 2 weeks from Europe to Australia in snail mail, that he got to my house. And then when I saw his handwriting, I'm like, oh, and it just, again, there was just this other feeling. I'm like, this is incredible. So I've now written to people who are interstate, and I just feel like it's just this amazing grounding technique, but it also takes away from everything else out there where you're not being distracted and you can actually focus on something that's really meaningful, and it's building that connection again.
Yeah, no, it's so important because it's again, it's another way to when I was writing my book, well, I call it a book, it's a audio book, but it took a lot of time for me because I was sort of I'm not a writer. I never thought I was going to be able to write anything, but
Yeah.
I just thought, let's do it. And I spent a lot of hours just doing it, and it was so amazing. You
Mm,
forget about everything else, and you're just
mm,
writing things in a note, and
mm.
then you're trying to type it, and then writing in the notes, and so it just takes you away from the hustle, the daily
Yeah.
hustle of what was happening. It was
Yeah.
a great way for me to reconnect to myself and my thoughts, what I was doing. So,
Mm,
no, thank you for sharing that,
of
the
course.
story about writing the letter to your dad, because such amazing stuff. It's such a
Mm,
nice thing. And like just seeing the letter that your dad wrote and,
yeah.
the handwriting, it just
The handwriting.
different levels,
It
different
is.
levels of sensory
Yeah.
things get activated there. So, no, thank you
Mm.
for sharing that. And
Oh, you're
I'm pretty
welcome.
sure it'll resonate with a lot of listeners out there.
Well, there's
If
a there's a big there's a
sorry,
big sorry there's a big turn toward letter writing at the moment. I keep on getting people sending me like, have you seen this company? They're doing all these pens and all these fancy paper and all that kind of stuff. So there's a massive analog shift. People are trying to come back to analog, to that really simplistic activities, day-to-day activities, like kicking the ball in the street, playing cricket in the street, playing basketball with your mates. Like, that's what we want to bring back to the world, not a world of a kids being brought up in front of screens becoming zombies, which is what's currently happening. So this analog magic is magic. It is. So I think that we've got a ways to go, but we'll get there. I reckon we
no,
will.
I think it's really good because funny you said that because I've just realized when I was doing my first podcast with one of my students. Now he's my teacher, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Charlie the Hammer Hall. He got this habit from the World WBC World Boxing Council president, Pepe, I think his name is.
Mhm.
So he writes with that, the ink. They fill the ink in the pen, and
Yes.
yeah,
No.
so he's got that. And so while I was after the podcast I did, I said, "So what do you do for like your hobby?" Because that's something I'm also talking to a lot of people about. Have a hobby. He said,
Mm.
"I do this," and I said, "What do you? Oh wow, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm writing." I journal every day. Because
Amazing.
Peppy told me to do it, and he's doing it, and is doing it in cursive writing, and I'm like, interesting. Oh, that's good, man.
Yeah, that's
But it
amazing.
sort of just highlighted what you just said. Like, interesting stuff. But on legacy and hope. Before I jump
Yeah.
into that,
Mhm.
did you? I remember when we were talking offline, you wanted to. You're talking about some work experience, some example from work you wanted to discuss.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. This is a no, I'd say difficult. It was the worst job I'd ever gone to in my policing career, where a father had murdered his son and severely beaten his daughter. And it was a conversation Amit and I were having offline prior to this. And it was that moment of I guess it's twofold, where we do this job for a reason and where trauma sets in. And what the girl that was badly beaten was quite young at the time, and throughout the court process, which we all know is very lengthy, it took quite a few years. And in that time, she had, at the very end of it, when all of the recommendations are handed down, I met her for the first time since I met her that night, and she said it was my kindness. I'm giving her some food and a drink that was all hers, because she wasn't allowed to have anything that was hers, and that I inspired her to become a midwife, and she was currently in school to be a midwife. And that job brought on my PTSD. That was the job that knocked me for six in every way, shape, and form. I actually thought my body was giving up on me with the symptoms I was getting from the trauma that I had experienced. So I think that was just the tip of the iceberg from the years beforehand. But it was the moment that when she said that to me, I said, that's that one life. That's all I wanted. Out of all of my years in policing, to know that you've changed just one person's life, one person's trajectory, means the world, and it means everything that we've done is worth it.
Wow. And I'm pretty sure if you go back and look at the people that you helped, there'll be so many other stories just like that. And it takes a
Probably.
special person, and the thing is, it takes a special person like you, like it's not just a job. And this is where I just want to break it down to people. It's like policing is not just a job. It's not just a job. It's a service where we get to change the trajectory of people and become better version of themselves, or become something different. Like what you're saying about this person becoming a midwife. They're one less person on the data, one less person that a job we got to go and attend a job to do
Yeah,
things. So kudos to you.
absolutely.
And it's not
Thanks.
a small thing; it's a big thing. Like and
Yeah.
and same thing with policing. Like there's a lot of police out there. They've done these jobs that they don't even know how they've helped that person.
Mm.
And my mission is to highlight those things to those officers, and bring these stories out where the people go reflect back. Hey, I need to go and catch up with the places I worked and see how people are
Yeah.
doing, because
Yeah.
these people that the officers have touched in their life have changed trajectory. Like what your story, like
Mm.
from a nastiest thing you can go to
Yeah.
something positive come out. I know
Yeah.
something really bad happened there, but
Yeah.
out
Something
of that
beautiful happened too.
chaos, you
Mm.
made something a positive for somebody. So kudos to
Yeah.
you,
Oh,
and
thank you.
and thank you, because sometimes we don't we don't embrace ourselves enough,
Mm.
or pat ourselves in the back to say, you know,
Yeah.
there's people there doing great stuff because of a good intervention was done by a
Yeah.
police officer.
Yeah.
So thank
Yeah.
you very
Yeah.
much for sharing this story, because it's very, very important that we do. And thank you. When do you think about your journey from hypervigilance and digital
Mm.
dissociation to building a global wellness solution? What
Mm.
does strength mean to you now?
Mm. I think in my previous life, strength was my Freddie, the badge. It was about being stoic and unshakable and like always in control. And now I see strength as the courage to be vulnerable and to admit when you're stuck either in a loop or just not having the grit to build a way out. Not even just be selfish for others. I think there's great power in agency. So truth strength for me isn't about having the willpower to resist every temptation. It's about having self-awareness, being able to reclaim my agency. It's moving from being a passenger, to an algorithm and back to being the driver of your own life.
Oh, that's a very, very good advice for the listeners out there. What legacy do you hope Pivot leaves for the next generation?
Call me ambitious, but I hope it's not just the next generation.
No, no, no. It will be for more bigger than that.
Yeah, well, look, I really hope that, for future generations, that Pivot changes the way that we use technology. And I think that we need to build a healthy respect for it now for that to be taken into consideration. We want our legacy to be a massive shift in the industry. We want it is an app. We want the app. We're using an app to fight apps. Go figure. I know the irony is there. But, where success isn't measured, we don't want it to be measured by likes or, external validation. We want people to be able to know that they can return to their very human, very messy, very adventurous lives. So the next generation, we want to see technology being used as a tool that serves people rather than a master that they have to please. So if Pivot can help restore analog magic, as I call it, of human connection and presence, then I think that we've done our job right.
Oh, thank you, because that's a very important thing. Like there's a lot of influencers out there, and they make things look so amazing. And I got fooled myself going to a base camp thinking, it's gonna be glorious walking up there, and holy hell, it was.
Challenge.
Some of the stuff wasn't. Some of the stuff wasn't on those influencers.
They went in the pamphlet.
Yeah, they were. But the thing is, it's good to have these honest conversations and telling people the straight things, what's happening, and how to deal with it and how to embrace it.
Yeah.
And what would what message would you want to leave with the first responders, parents, and anyone struggling with the tech burnout?
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of everyone at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, what I want to highlight real quick is a study on brain drain. It's basically when a study was done back in 2017, I think it was, about when a phone is near you. It doesn't have to be right on you. It can be screen down, off on silent, but if it's near you, your brain works double time trying to avoid reaching for it. So I'm gonna send you that study because I think it's super important in terms of productivity at work for your kids, for anyone who does feel like they're definitely dealing with a tech addiction. Now, my phone is not in this room. I've put it away, so I'm not thinking about it. Whereas if it was, next to me, there would be times I would have looked at it for sure, 100%. And again, it's just acknowledging that, we're all human and we're learning. So the message I do have for everyone is to the parents, first and foremost, there's a lot of talk about, how dare you put your kids in front of screens. This is not about blaming parents. It's not you are the failures. We have all of us collectively have been sucked into the workings of persuasive design technology. So it's just now that we're now becoming aware of it, and now it's time to act and help yourselves and your kids make choices to pivot from digital to analog, where you can. Obviously, like we said before, this is not a pitch against tech. We live in this tech world. We can't get away from it. We just need to show a balance and restore that balance. Humans need to control the technology, just not the other way around. We are on a mission and we need all the help and love and support we can get. So if you do want to learn more about our mission, I encourage you to head to our website, pivotirl.com. and join the mission. We also have an inbuilt calculator on our website, and that shows you what we call a digital bleed. Basically, it's a sliding scale that reveals how many years of your life you are being siphoned from by your screen, and this is based on the average lifespan of 80 years, which is roughly about 4,000 weeks, which doesn't seem very much now that I say it. So have a look at that. If you're super interested in joining the mission, please add your name to that. If you want to go a step beyond that and join our beta phase, which is going to be in 4 to 5 weeks from today, please let Amit know and he can contact me with the details.
Oh, no, thank you very much. And so, well, just want to recap on that. So the website?
Yeah, is Pivot IRL, so PIVOT IRL.com.
Yep. And that's the website too. And then you guys got your contact details in there if people wanted to explore that.
Yes.
And the baby phase, so the pivot hasn't started yet, but the baby phase starts in 43 weeks. Is that what it is?
No, so beta phase is basically where we're going to give everyone, we're going to give a select amount of people a chance to effectively break the app, but they're going to be the first people to use it. And they're going to be the first people to adopt its design, its features, and see how it goes. And they actually get say in how it continues to go. So if there's a design or a feature in there that doesn't work, we listen to the feedback and we change it. So they've got basically first dibs. It's going to be free for those people for life because they're helping us to help other people. I feel like it's a gift. So beta phase happens in 4 to 6 weeks, late May, let's say, late May.
Yep.
And it will go for a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks after that. And then we launch in the first week of August, which I'm really excited about.
Wow, that is amazing. And my sister in blue, you are doing amazing work.
Thank you.
And this is going to be a life changer for a lot of people. There's people are struggling with their addictions, sleep and scrolling through. Like I'm guilty of that too. And sometimes, but
everyone is fine.
Yeah, it's one of those things. We need to if somebody doesn't tell us, we don't know.
Exactly.
So. And the sleep is so important. So I like what you're saying. We got to control the technology, not the technology controlling us. Have some parameters around it, how you use it, how you utilize it, because obviously we'll need it. But let's not be slave to it. They're our slave. I don't want to use them as slave, but
it's not wrong.
We are the master, not them. We created them, so we got to control them. No, I like your attitude, and I like what you've done. You've been through, a lot in the career in your life, and yet still you came up with a plan how to help other people. So kudos to you, my sister.
Thank you.
And all the best with your launch. And then, any other thing you wanted to say to the listeners or anyone?
No, thank you for listening. Thank you for having me, Amit. It's again amazing work that you do and giving us a platform to talk to other officers and first responders about what we're doing and hopefully be able to help them in any way that we can. But to anyone else out there, first, don't blame yourself. This is the global problem, and if you really want to change it, please look at our socials. On our website and listen in. We've got research happening almost daily, which we are putting up on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram. I don't want to go to TikTok. But we're obviously having to select. We have to go to where the problem is, which is on our social media. So come see us, come engage, because we love people who actually give us meaningful engagement that gives us indications of we're on the right track. So if there are any things that you want to have an opinion about, any feedback, either DM me or get in contact with Amit. Otherwise, I hope to see you in beta or launch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amit.